It is another lovely Thursday. Hello. All right. Let's get this thing cleared out. Welcome, everyone. Let's do a little switcheroo, if in fact I may, and say hi. Welcome to another live taping of Podcast Pontifications. I'm Evo Terra, your guide for the day. If you are just now, for the first time ever, watching me do the live stream, maybe you've listened to Podcast Pontifications before, and you're saying, hey, I've never heard shows start like this, Evo. Well, that's because you're watching the live taping. This is the behind-the-scenes stuff, so you can see the magic and apparently the biology that goes into making Podcast Pontifications. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you have no idea what the hell is going on, you are watching the live taping of a podcast. In about 3 to 4 minutes, I will start the actual podcast content. This is just live streamy content for the handful of people who like to watch me do the live stream. I use the camera because it turns me on more. It gets me more excited about doing a show when I feel like there might be somebody watching on the other end as I do it. I do have a chat window set up so I can say, hello, Kevin Patton. Thank you for being the first one to say hello, sir. Thank you very much. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, the LinkedIns, the Twitters, the Facebooks, and by that I mean that's the only way you can watch this right now, the live streaming, feel free to leave a comment, and I will be able to respond to you through the magic of the internets. Do that. Today's topic of Podcast Pontification is storytelling and the importance of storytelling in podcasting. I could talk about this topic all day. Really, I would love to do nothing more than talk about this topic all day long, but I don't. Well, I'm going to talk about it today for 10 minutes long, but yeah. You know, it's the end of the week. It's Thursday, and I thought I'd give you something kind of interesting to chew on, some fun things for your brain to make you kind of question some of the things you're doing, which I know is kind of my mission in life here at Podcast Pontifications at least, but this is something that I think is for everyone. Really. Everyone who's a podcaster, look, you need to be a better storyteller. And so that's what we're going to talk about on the program today. Yeah, all sorts of fun. Also, I'm excited that I have a Boostagram corner. Yay! I get to mention Boostograms again at the end of the program, so stick around for that. That'll be a lot of fun. And let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other major housekeeping items. You remember Thursday. I'll probably talk about this more later on, but I'll for the people who watch this live or who back up and watch the live stream later, you might remember that last Thursday I gave you an assignment that said, go find a new podcatcher. Yeah, well, that didn't work all that well for me, to be really honest with you. I was kind of disappointed by what I found. I wasn't terribly surprised about my disappointment. I thought that might be the case, but that is what it was. Hi, Arlen. Nice to see you, sir. Anyhow, what I did out of that is I have written a manifesto of sorts and published it privately to the website yesterday. If you are in the Discord server, if you go into the updates from Evo section, you will see a link to that. Later today, I will actually officially publish it for the entire world to see. But if you want a head start on that, go to the Discord server. What you will find in that article is my manifesto of 4 things that podcast apps need to do. Not individually. They need to do all of them. Some do some, but I need all 4 of these things working. And if we had an app that had all 4 of these things working, I think they would just slam dunk it out of the park. So anyhow, I wrote that because I'm also going to be featured on this week's episode of Podland, the show that James Cridland and Sam Sethi put out that covers the most important news topics of the last week. I'm a guest on the program talking about this particular manifesto that I wrote. So if you want the full details, go to the Discord server for now, or wait till I'm ready to post it later on today. Okay, but we're not talking about that today. Today, the topic of conversation is storytelling in podcasting, and I need to get I'm pretty much set up. I got up extra early this morning because this idea was rattling around in my head but wasn't fully formed, as is often the case. But now it is. So as you know, what I like to do is I like to first read out the cold open to make sure what I wrote makes sense. Here we go. It doesn't matter how long your podcast episodes are, so long as you tell a great story. Great storytellers make all of podcasting better, and with some work and dedication, you too can join their ranks. That's what I'm going to say. I kind of like it. I'm happy with the way it reads. So now, let's blow this popsicle stand, shall we? And by that I mean start, which is the opposite of blowing a popsicle stand, but whatever, just roll with it. All right. Also, some behind-the-scenes stuff coming in during the episode, too, so let's make this thing happen. Here we go. It doesn't matter how long your podcast episodes are, so long as you tell a great story. Great storytellers make all of podcasting better, and with some work and dedication, you too can join their ranks. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. My grandfather was not a podcaster, obviously. I mean, I'm a grandfather and podcasting's only been around for a couple of decades, so time. My mom has been sending me the stories that she pulled out of my grandfather over the last decade or so of his life. And wow, would my grandfather have made for one of the best, most entertaining podcasters ever. Wow. I mean, I credit any skills I might have as a storyteller to him. Direct line to him. He had the knack for storytelling and remains the kind of storyteller I continually strive to be. And you hear evidence of that every single time you listen to Podcast Pontifications. I don't have to tell you, the working podcaster, how important storytelling is. And it's very likely that you are already a good storyteller, especially if your podcast has been out and running and doing well for a long while now. But not every podcaster feels that way. In fact, many of them struggle with the idea of storytelling. Either really, they're just not good at it, or due to that pesky imposter syndrome that we can't escape. So how do you, the working podcaster, become a better storyteller? Because I will tell you, all things remaining equal, the podcaster who is better at storytelling will out-podcast someone who isn't. I'd go so far as to say that storytelling is an integral part of the podcasting process. Chances are we could all be better storytellers, which will in fact make all of podcasting better. Now, I'm reticent to give advice on how to become a great podcasting storyteller. Look, I'm not a teacher of storytelling. I'm a practitioner, if you will, of storytelling, but I'm not designed to teach storytelling. But I can at least share with you the things that I do, tell you stories about the way I tell stories and became a better storyteller. First thing, I listen to and also read a lot of great stories from great storytellers. I consume a ridiculous number of fiction podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. I read books. But I also read articles written by great storytellers. I listen to a lot of history podcasts. I follow the words of great science communicators and many more. I fill my eyes and my ears with great stories all the time. That lets me recognize the rhythm, the scent of what a good story really is. And yeah, the mechanics are important. How do you structure a story and all those things? That's true. But I'm really seeking out things that are less for the structure and more for the ability to grab me and pull me inside. And when I'm listening to or reading and somehow consuming that content, look, I'm also actively stealing ideas. I'm pulling things aside and saying, ooh, I like that. And I'm incorporating those ideas that I share, steal, if you will, into this show. I do it also for my guest appearances. I mean, everything that I do is oftentimes a result of the things that I listen to, the things that I read out there. You know, storytelling isn't an ability that will suddenly spontaneously generate in your brain. I'm fortunate. I had near constant exposure to storytelling as a kid, and I try to continue that today. So same for you. Surround yourself with great stories. The second thing I do is I outline. Now, I always hated outlining. I really did. At least I hated the way that I was taught to outline in school systems. But then I was thrown into writing podcasting for dummies, and that experience changed everything. See, my publishers required an outline first. And not just a few bullet points on where I thought the conversation might go. No, an extremely detailed outline of the concepts I would be presenting in each and every chapter. I don't want to say it was quite a 1-to-1 ratio bullet point to chapter, but it wasn't too far off from that. And I do that still today on episodes of Podcast Pontification. Case in point, the outline for today's show, I kid you not, 46 lines, 885 words. It's all written down. Not every single thing I'm saying, but again, 886 words written in an outline before I sat down behind this microphone. And once it's done, once that outline is done, it's very easy for me to fill in the gaps like I'm kind of doing right now. I don't have to worry if I'm getting my point across or if I'm going to get to the conclusion because it's all in the outline. I just have to follow it. Another thing that I do is I have favorite stories in my back pocket ready to go at the drop of a hat. Because if someone drops a mic in your face, now don't panic, you're a podcaster, you can handle that, and they said to you, tell me a story now, could you do that? I've got a few. Like the time I got kicked out of my very first college football game and probably should have been arrested for that same thing. Or the shared midlife crisis my wife and I went through that led us to selling every single thing that we owned here in America and then traveled abroad and lived abroad for 3 years. And I've even got one non-joke that I've made my own and can make fill a 15-minute spot without a problem, entertaining everybody around me, with the exception of my wife, who forbids me from ever telling the said non-joke in her presence. And I also practice. Yep, I practice obviously here on Podcast Pontification. I get a chance to practice 4 days a week on you. But I also practice my when I'm making guest appearances, like I did a couple of times yesterday when I'm on other podcasts. I practice every single time I'm giving a presentation, whether that's in person, I miss in person, or virtual events. And I, over the years, have submitted to and presented at a lot of local storytelling events. Yeah, like the Reignite Phoenix, like Pechacuchas, like other little weird storytelling events. They're all there. And I talk to myself a lot. I work out ideas and concepts and how to thread things together, from some of the most trivial things, some of the most boring things, or sometimes even the most loftiest of things, like if I was giving a speech to the UN on how to combat climate change. I know that's never going to go anywhere, but it's practice. I'm practicing throwing out ideas in my head out loud. Because practice builds your storytelling muscle. Apologies to the physicians and biologists out there. I know that the brain's not a muscle, but I mean metaphorically, not literally. You get the idea. The human brain has been shaped by hundreds of thousands of years to crave stories, right? You need to fill that need on your podcast. Because as I said, given the choice, stories are going to trump advice every single time. And speaking of stories, I'd like to read you a fable. No, wait, I wrote that down wrong. I want to read you some boostergrams. Allie, this is where you put the boostergrams in. Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting fame and the actual Podcasting Hall of Fame used Fountain, podcast listening app, to send me 500 Satoshis, thank you, Dave, with a message that just said, boost for you. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And then there's Nick. I don't know who Nick is, just simply Nick. I don't know where Nick is from, but thank you, Nick. Nick also used Fountain to also send me 500 sats with the message, some very wise words, great listen. Thank you very much, Nick. If you received some value from this episode and you would also like to send me some value back, and you're using one of those value for value enabled apps like Fountain, please send me a boost with a message, a boostagram, and I'll read it out to you right here on the show. And if you're not, I get it, man. This whole thing is the opposite of intuitive. You can always buy me a virtual coffee at buymeavirtualcoffee. No, that's not what it is. It's called buymeacoffee.com/evoterra. Buy 12 while you're at it. No episodes tomorrow. I like to keep my Fridays sacred. So with that, I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast pontifications. Cheers. Stop the audio. Stop the video. Man, that went long again. What you gonna do when you're long? Okay. Hope you all enjoyed that. Let's check the chat window. Mark Asquith says, sup. Sup. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you very much for your attention, all. If you are just now tuning into the live stream, you missed it. And sure, you could back up 16 minutes and go to the very beginning if you want. Or, better yet, you could just hang out for 2 hours and 45 minutes, because that's when everything, the edited audio, as well as the article I'm about to rewrite, I'm going to take those, what was the number I said again? 880 some odd words? Yeah, I'm going to take the 885 words that I had on my paper and combine that with the, 1,500 words or so that tumbled forth from my mouth. And then I will rewrite all of that into an article so you can read it. And if you're subscribed to Podcast Pontifications in your inbox, PPIYI I call it, you'll get the email. And in that email, you'll have a link to the MP3 file, and not a link, but the actual article right there in your email, so you can just read it if that makes more sense to you. Totally up to you, totally free. Have fun doing it. Okay, that's it. Podcastpontifications.com is where you can get all that stuff. Monday, we'll do this thing all over again with a new set. Last couple of days of the month, then into September's. Yes, we're continue. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Have a great Friday and a weekend. See you tomorrow. Bye.